As service providers introduce new rate plans, their networks are becoming more complex. There's a lot more network elements that are in the network, either in the data plane or the control plane. So do you want to talk a little bit about those elements and how they interact with each other?
Absolutely. One of the things we hear from pretty much all the operators that we interact with is how their networks are increasingly complex because they're being dominated today by the point solutions to serve various purposes, right? As an example, possibly DPI, carrier grade NAT, then there are firewall. So again, the added advantage or added value that we, through our big IP, bring to table is the ability to layer in, let's say, the policy enforcement manager capabilities, which provides the subscriber application context awareness, along with all the policy interfaces, being able to layer that in with firewall capabilities, again via a software edition only, being able to layer that in with CG NAT type of capabilities to now be able to offer the operator a consolidated multi-service platform that can address their IP exhaustion issues, their security issues, as well as their need to being able to monetize and optimize their network in a better fashion.
So let's talk about some of the other elements and the interfaces to them. I mean, it's really an alphabet soup right now, and it's very easy for anybody to get confused about all of these different interfaces. So why don't we talk a little bit about which ones are the most common and prevalent now, and which ones are more future oriented?
Sure. So one of the integral capabilities of the policy enforcement manager includes being able to interact with the policy control rules function, which is a very core element of the mobile operators network. And this PCRF interacts with the policy enforcement manager via the GX interface, which is the interface via which the policies for the subscriber are pushed, right? PEM uses these policies and based on its knowledge of the subscriber can apply and enforce the policies in an appropriate fashion, right? Some of the other interfaces that PEM will be supporting as we move forward are the GY interface, which brings to table the ability to do more online prepaid type of services, quota management services, as we refer to it in common parlance. And then again, moving forward, we also look at ourselves in terms of being able to support the SD interface, which then puts us in a very classic, traffic detection function type of footprint, where we position ourselves really as a standalone policy enforcement type of device. So we hear from our operators that GX is really among the most important interfaces that they leverage at this point of time. GY is important for those who are looking for prepaid type of services, and we have that planned. SD is a part of the evolution towards compatibility with the next generation of the 3GPP specs.
So you hear about some of the rate plans that are being offered, like a Facebook-only rate plan or application-specific rate plan, as well as fair usage policies being enforced. What are some of the common use cases for policy management solutions?
Sure. So, when we talk to operators, there's a set of use cases that we've come to understand that most operators are interested in when they talk in terms of policy enforcement. Top among them being the intelligent traffic steering, right? Policy enforcement manager can provide traffic steering capabilities with the knowledge of that subscriber and application awareness. So now, instead of having to steer all your port 80 traffic, you can now steer only that 6% of video traffic to the video optimization server, right? So that's a pretty significant use case for F5, given where we come from in terms of our existing play in the traffic steering type of solutions, right? The other use case that we hear about is more in the high-level category of bandwidth control. So let's say fair usage, right, wherein policy enforcement manager can apply policies either at the global application level or at the level of an application and subscriber, and we can now have the bandwidth being distributed in an equal fashion among the various subscribers that use the pipe. Or let's say we can rate limit a particular application to whatever we want to, right? So say all P2P being rate limited to X megabits of traffic, right? So it's a way for the operator to potentially look at optimizing his network from the heavy users, or for traffic that he thinks is taking up maybe network bandwidth in peak hours and offload it to maybe off-peak hours, things like that. And then there is the use case which operators want to use just from a pure profiling and trending standpoint, which is the analytics use case. And PEM plays in that space as well, from being able to provide the granularity not just at the course subscriber session level, but also in terms of the next level of granularity, which gives insight into the flows for a particular subscriber.
Right. And you talked about optimizing your network. The RAN is the most expensive and often the most congested part of the network. What's F5 doing to ease that congestion from a policy perspective?
Sure. So, we absolutely are very cognizant of the fact that to a mobile operator, the RAN is really, his most costly and significant asset, right? Because that is the asset that gets stressed most, right? Especially given all this deluge of traffic that he has to handle. So F5 is looking at various solutions to address, the RAN congestion aspect, and being able to identify, let's say, that heavy user in that cell or sector, and being able to apply the appropriate policy to throttle or mitigate that congestion. Towards this end, we've been looking at some internal solutions in terms of being able to monitor connections based on the demand, and then apply policies accordingly. And we've also been engaged in discussions with various vendors in the market, SON vendors, as they're called, self-optimizing network vendors, and we're working with them to figure out solutions whereby they can provide us the necessary triggers, which they get by interaction with some of the key elements in the mobile operator's network, to really help identify that congested cell or sector and subscriber. They provide us these triggers, and we in turn, using these triggers, can apply the relevant policies to mitigate that congestion, and then possibly revert back to the original policy when we see that congestion situation having been addressed, right? So we are definitely very cognizant of this, and we've been taking a very close look to find ways to work with partners and internally as well to find solutions to it.